The funny thing will be is if we're moderately successful in 5 years, our Bitcoin business will go from being worth 100 billion to a trillion, moderately successful. And if we're moderately successful on the software business, go from being worth 2 billion to 20 billion. And the question I'll get from everybody, I get the question now from our software folks.
MicroStrategy's chief executive doesn't hedge when asked to imagine the next 5 years. He sets a stakes in the ground vision that treats a trillion as an attainable waypoint rather than an impossible summit. The framing is intentional, pairing the company's Bitcoin strategy with its enterprise software ambitions rather than choosing one over the other. It's less about a single bet and more about a flywheel where balance sheet and product reinforce each other. That is the backbone of today's narrative, how a dual engine model becomes a compounding story.
So you have a $2 billion software business and $100 billion total enterprise value, roughly. Do you care about software? And I say, of course, we care about both. Like, they're both important.
The repeated question about priorities reveals how outsiders often misread the company's intent. The software arm is not window dressing. It is the operating leverage that can scale into new markets shaped by AI. Meanwhile, the Bitcoin strategy supplies an asset base and a brand identity that opens doors with customers and investors. Together, they create optionality that pure-play peers struggle to match. The path to a trillion, in this telling, is paved by complementarity.
In 5 years from now, I'll have a $20 billion software business. I'm a $1 trillion enterprise. And everyone will ask the same question. And then when we're a $10 trillion enterprise, however X many years from now, and we're running a $200 billion software business, we'll still have the question. And all of those are questions I welcome and are good problems to have.
Projecting forward, the CEO normalizes scale by turning tomorrow's headlines into today's baselines. He treats the inevitable scrutiny as a feature of success rather than a distraction. That mindset positions curiosity and criticism as fuel for better execution. It also reframes growth as a series of thresholds the company expects to cross. The argument is less hype than habit, built on repetition and resolve.
I think the Bitcoin market, the Bitcoin-backed credit market especially, is a massive market that we can go address. And I think the enterprise software and the AI-enabled enterprise software market are massive markets. And they're both great. They're complementary to each other for a variety of reasons, people-related, capability-related, and structural. And that's why it's fun to work in both areas. It's a great opportunity. It's a great privilege.
Here, the scope widens beyond holdings into infrastructure. A Bitcoin-backed credit market suggests new products, partners, and yields that could extend the balance sheet's utility. AI-enabled analytics, meanwhile, keeps the software franchise current and useful for customers facing data sprawl. The connective tissue is talent and structure, not just assets. That is where a durable moat can form.
And then on top of that, you have the first and largest, by far, 10x Bitcoin treasury company. And you have a track record of execution through the last 5 years and conviction. We did not sell Bitcoin in 2022.
Conviction isn't theoretical in this story. It's demonstrated by inaction at the hardest possible time. The refusal to sell during stress became a calling card that differentiates MicroStrategy from opportunistic tourists. Track record begets trust, and trust lowers the cost of capital. That, in turn, funds the next move. The compounding loop tightens.
And so as you start to look at the underlying characteristics of not the asset class, but the company, MicroStrategy, now strategy, right, you're going to see someone who's extremely transparent, who's very convicted, who has an amazing founder, who has an amazing executive team and execution and team capable of executing. And then you say to yourself, is that what you want to invest in? And then you stack that up against all your other potential investments.
The pitch shifts from macro to micro, from Bitcoin's narrative to the company's traits. Transparency and team strength become the investable edge. It's a reminder that even in crypto-adjacent stories, execution lives with people and processes. The investment case becomes a checklist that looks beyond charts toward governance and grit. That's how a thesis survives volatility.
I like to say strategy, right, is the Bitcoin of not just Bitcoin treasury companies, but strategy is the Bitcoin of technology companies. And our goal is, to become the Bitcoin of public companies, right? And if you stack the two up side by side, you create a little spreadsheet and you look at, why do I like Bitcoin, right? You might realize that each of those have a parallel with why you might want to like strategy.
This analogy aims high, but it is consistent with the brand's identity. By mapping Bitcoin's perceived qualities to corporate behavior, the CEO argues for a cultural standard, not just a balance sheet position. Scarcity becomes discipline. Durability becomes focus. Decentralized energy becomes distributed ambition. The spreadsheet is a metaphor for alignment.
I'm not saying that's what you should do with our equity, our preferreds, but it gives you the conviction in the company, right? And that takes a little work, right? It's a lot easier than looking at, the trailing 200-day whatever of our stock, but then you become a long-term holder.
Long holding periods demand patience and homework. The appeal is lower stress and fewer unforced errors. The trade-off is that conviction must be earned, not borrowed. The company invites that effort by broadcasting its playbook. The hope is that educated holders become enduring partners.
There are a lot of folks out there who are young and want to make money day trading, like and investing, and it's like people who are trying to flip houses in like 2005, and they thought they were good at it. No, you're just lucky, right? Like most people, if you're a day trader, you're basically just giving money into the large financial institutions and hedge funds, or you're lucky.
The cautionary note underlines why a trillion-dollar target can't rest on hot money. Transient capital flees at the first sign of turbulence. Enduring value requires patient capital aligned with strategy. That is where education becomes strategy. Teach the thesis and the shareholder base stabilizes.
But if you're really a value investor and you truly understand the underlying characteristics of the company, what we do well, then you go and you just invest and you hold for a while, and then you stack sats or you stack shares, whatever it is.
The duality returns, sats and shares, asset and enterprise. The ambition is to make them rhyme over time. If that alignment endures, the narrative of a trillion shifts from provocative to plausible. It becomes the expected outcome of compounding execution. That is the heart of the claim. We traced a bold 5-year vision that pairs a Bitcoin-anchored balance sheet with an AI-driven software engine. Walked through why transparency and talent sit at the center of the thesis, and saw how education aims to convert traders into long-term partners. The message is consistent. Build conviction, hold through cycles, and let compounding do the heavy lifting.
You bring a very clear mindset in terms of investing and how to think about Bitcoin and strategy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, that's everything that I have. Fong and I are probably going to chat for another few minutes here, but thank you very much for joining us. And this will be up probably in the next few days. You're currently watching it today on October 20th, but it'll be up probably by the end of this week on the True North channel and on X. So please like, retweet, and share from there. And we will be bringing you more content in the future.
Do you think MicroStrategy can truly align sats and shares into one compounding story? Or is a trillion in 5 years still a bridge too far?